Every year, over 1 million kids drop out of high school nationwide. In Ohio, 40,000 students don't graduate with their classmates each year. It's not only a problem for the young people, it has a ripple effect on the entire community. Hello, I'm Lehr, and welcome to Focus. According to the Community Research Collaborative of Cincinnati, the economic impact due to the current high school dropout rate is estimated at $180 million in revenues and earnings. On this episode of Focus, we're launching a series of broadcast programs in support of American Graduate. Let's Make It Happen, a national public media initiative funded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to help communities such as this one address the high school dropout situation. Today we'll explore why young people are dropping out and how mentoring programs are working to help kids stay in school. Our guests today are Simone Bess, Vice President of Mentoring for the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, and Khalilah Slater Harrington, Summer Learning Specialist with Cincinnati Public Schools. Thank you both for being with us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
What do we know about the numbers when it comes to the local dropout rate?
We know that if one student doesn't make it, it has an economic impact on the community. So we know that there are numbers way too high for young people who are not only reported in the high school dropout rates, but actually those that don't even make it to high school in this region, who are not even counted in those numbers.
Is it pretty much standardized? Is there a way to to decide from one district to the next the dropout rate, or from one state to the next?
At the state level, there's some consistency in terms of reporting out on those graduation rates. And the nation's in the process of making sure that across the states there's a consistent way to calculate and measure graduation rates.
Some calculate according to cohort, and so if they started in the 9th grade and they completed the 12th grade, we do not do that. Others calculate if they've made it to senior year and they completed the entire senior year. So there are multiple ways of calculating it.
When do you think is the really formative period for when a child makes the decision to either stay in school or not to?
I would say around 4th grade. Around 4th grade. And you've heard this time and time again, but at 4th grade is the level at which students stop learning to read, but they start reading to learn. And if they are significantly behind in that progress point, then they begin to become disengaged because they're not a part of the learning process that is occurring in their classroom. And so that becomes, that impacts their efficacy, their belief in what they can do. And it also impacts them being able to stay with their peer group. And so we start seeing a compounding effect, almost like a snowball, as they proceed through their elementary and junior high school years.
How does the dropout rate impact the entire community? We mentioned that it has an economic impact. How does that work?
Well, you know, when we talk about reduction in economics, that's a powerful piece. We need the economic viability of a region to stay positive and upward. And so as we lose young people and their dollars to other systems, it costs. And when you compound where those other systems end up, we're talking about increased activity in the criminal realm. And that, of course, has an additional cost to society. So it's not just the cost of their lost income and wages, it's also the cost of potential criminal activity that, and other forms of behavior that are not conducive to supporting a healthy environment.
Overall, as a community, are we seeing a reduction in the numbers of kids dropping out? You think here we are, 2012, you would think that most kids understand the importance of getting a high school education.
Again, I think that it is impacted by the way it is calculated. While it would appear that as a school district, our graduation rate is increasing, there are still some, I wouldn't call them critics, but some people in our community who believe that that number is in fact either staying the same or getting lower. It's all on the way you calculate it. So I would like to believe that we're improving, as our numbers would suggest, but there's a narrative out there that suggests otherwise.
Is it any different in, say, Cincinnati compared to Columbus, Dayton, any of the other major cities in Ohio?
In terms of the numbers of dropouts, and when we talk about major cities,
yes.
it's pretty consistent across this country. Some of us, some states, some countries, some states and some cities are doing a little bit better, but it's a major problem for this country.
When you talk about reaching out to the young people who are at risk, how do we go about doing it? The belts are getting tighter and tighter. There's fewer dollars available for programs and interventions. So how do we do this?
You know, I think that the community has a responsibility to the young people to wrap its arms around young people. And giving a heart and giving a hand doesn't cost anything. So as we face these challenging economic times, there are still ways that the community can and should wrap itself around the young people of this community.
How so?
They can tutor, they can mentor, they can smile, they can come into a school and assist in ways that are needed as identified by that school building principal. There are lots of things. They can provide funding, dollars to programs that are doing a great job in supporting young people. They can give their time, they can give their talent, or they can give their treasure. There are ways that it can be done.
Somebody watching the program says, you know, I'd like to be able to do it, but I don't feel qualified to be able to educate another person.
You know, most of us had, and I'm sorry for jumping in, but most of us had mentors growing up. Mm-hmm. There were people who spoke into our lives, who helped us to do things, who helped us understand things that were outside of our family unit. It might have been an aunt, it might have been a coach, it might have been a neighbor, but people mentored us. And so most of us can think about those people in our lives that spoke to us, that helped us through. And that's what we're asking. Who can't do that? There are very few people who can't give of themselves in the way that people have given to them.
At its core, you know, Marion Wright Edelman talks about the knowing and doing gap. You know, as a community, we've got to close that gap. What we know is best for children, we have to begin to do that, no matter what. And so if it means prioritizing your day differently, and so that just like you get your workout in, you talk to a kid for 30 minutes. It could be over the phone, you could text. I think some people think that this is this specialized, and indeed there are specialized mentoring services, but you sitting down and talking to a young person, encouraging a young person, doesn't require a whole lot of special skill. I think that you should affiliate with a mentoring organization such as the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, and there are many others that upholds quality standards in mentoring, and that'll keep you safe from unhealthy relationships. But I think that it is something that is important that you can give your time to and really close that gap. If you know it's the right thing to do, in doing it.
You think about the relationship at school. Of course, the teachers are going to encourage the kids to stay in school and motivate them. You'll have mentors. Maybe? Okay. And if you have mentoring programs, but then a lot of the children's time is spent outside of school, at home, in their neighborhoods. Is that the biggest challenge, is to keeping them on the right track? If maybe they have some influences that aren't so positive?
I think that wherever you can insert positive influence into the life of a child, we should do it. School is one place, being active in the community, and community centers, recreation centers, in the public library. If you happen to visit the library, there are always kids around. There's so many ways that you can impact the life of young people.
When you talk about a mentoring program as a whole, is there a special screening process? What do you look for in a mentor?
Well, we look for people who care about young people, who want to make a positive difference in the lives of a young person. That's fundamentally it. We do screen. There are national screening requirements that we follow. We look for people who are positive and upbeat and who have 1 hour once a week for 1 year.
1 hour.
1 hour.
60 minutes.
Once a week for 1 year. That's what we're looking for.
When you talk about it, when you break it down, it doesn't sound like much.
No.
How does that 1 hour make such a difference?
I've heard stories about picking up their mentee on their way to the grocery store, having them go grocery shopping with them, picking them up on a Saturday to go to a coffee shop. integrating them into your everyday activities. As they see you work through your own task and your own challenges and your own problems, it really teaches them those everyday living skills that they require. And also when they see you not break down when there's a problem or a challenge, and they see you navigate it and persevere, it teaches them that, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And so while it may be a challenge at school, or I may have a difficult time navigating relationships with friends or foes, your mentor, just through their own living and personal experience, can help you through that. And so what is key is upbeat and passing a security test. But if you've lived, your mere experiences, human experiences, can really help a young person to navigate as well.
In terms of need, how many of the young people, let's talk about just in Cincinnati Public, how many would really benefit from having a mentor?
Thousands.
Oh, that's a big number.
Thousands.
And how many mentors do we have, roughly?
In CPS, there is a number, it's not coming to me, but we serve about 800 kids in one-on-one mentoring relationships within CYC.
So that less than 1,000, and we have thousands more, obviously, that need the help.
Thousands of young people in need. We have resource coordinators in many of our lowest performing schools who are identifying young people every day who can use the intervention of a caring adult. It could be through tutoring, it could be through mentoring, but we just need somebody to say, I got this one, I got this kid, and I'm going to make sure they're okay.
Does it make any difference, age, sex?
No. What we know is a good mentor isn't defined by their age, isn't defined by their race, isn't defined by their gender. We're careful around mixing gender and cross-gender matches, but even when those are well scripted, they also work. The generation gap, people are worried about, well, I'm a little older now. Well, that's still needed. That grandparent or older person figure is still a critical person that can be helpful to that young person.
I was going to say the grandparents might be able to learn a lot too from
the
technology.
Oh, they do. That's one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is that we're giving, mentors give, tutors give of themselves, but when you talk to those people who are actively engaged in that process, what they will tell you is that they've gained so much from their experience. And so that's an understated kind of favor that you gain from this mentoring experience. You're giving of yourself, but you're also getting so much back.
Do you have to have a one-year commitment, pretty much, to be a mentor?
At Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, we know that we need to have you committed for 1 year because the research suggests that relationships that last less than 9 months might even be detrimental to a young person who's gone through some pretty traumatic issues in their life. So we say we need a year from you.
And that's important even during the summer months when the
Yes,
kids are in school.
and we continue to support those relationships during the summer.
And that's where many of our young people fall dramatically behind as their peers advance or even maintain their educational levels during the summer. Many of our young people fall back because they're simply not engaged. They are not actively thinking, actively working, and maintaining that learning that they garnered during the school year. And so mentoring comes in as a very strong strategy to be able to engage young people, pick them up, take them to the museum, take them to your workplace, and really keep those synapses in the brain working throughout the summer. That is where we're going to diminish the achievement gap, is really making sure that our young people during the summer are still thinking and moving and going. When we see students who unfortunately didn't have the means or the access to programs during the summer to engage their brains or a caring adult to engage them, we also see that they have loss. They have summer learning loss. And so that impacts the graduation rate in the end because they're not able to stay on target with their peers. It impacts so many levels, their academic achievement. And so mentoring is a strategy that could, a low to no cost strategy that can improve across the board.
Well, we talk about, lowering the graduation rate. Does a mentor have to be a high school graduate?
No.
No.
No. We're talking about human relationships. And there may have been things in people's lives that prevented them from obtaining certain things. That doesn't disqualify them from being able to help someone else.
How do you measure success in the mentoring program to know that it's working and it's
we do it in a number of ways, but more quantitatively, we look at the individual records for each of our students. So we monitor their academic achievement, we monitor their attendance and their disciplinary activity. And what we know by looking at that very specific data on an individual student level is that students who come into our program and are mentored for at least 1 year have better attendance, they have better disciplinary records, and they gain academically better than non-mentored students. So that research that we do shows quantitatively mentoring has a huge impact on those areas.
When you talk about the 1 year commitment to work as a mentor, I would imagine that you've got some stories out there where there have been some mentors that have stayed for a lot longer than that.
Oh, we have generational stories, meaning students that were matched 5th or 6th grade that are now through college and mentoring someone else.
When you said college, that really made you smile, because I mean, you're seeing that, right?
Oh,
through these
absolutely.
mentors to encourage. Maybe these young people are some of the first ones in their families to obtain a college education. Is that what you're saying?
Many of our students are first generation college students. So it's, we're going beyond high school to college graduations. You'll see mentor matches at weddings and, at other life events farther down the road. So you commit that 1 year. Many people take it well beyond that 1 year. Those are the exceptions. We do have lots of those stories, and they're great stories. But what we're saying is just give us a year, an hour a week for 1 year. And we know, and we can prove to you that that makes a difference.
What about from your perspective, seeing the young people succeed and excel?
Having been a mentor myself, I know the impact of it. Having been mentored, I know the impact. And there are thousands of narratives across our schools where teachers are like, I need a mentor. I mean, they see how it works with other students once they're able to get a good match. And so we know that it works. We have the quantitative, but there are fabulous qualitative stories that would support that. I mean, Simone has one of my peers who is actually in law school now, Tracy, who's mentored, ran alongside of him this whole time, and he still credits his mentor with helping to do that. It's especially important for our students who are first generation college students, who it wasn't a natural inclination that I'm going to school, and that mentor was right there, and then they get into that first year where it is tremendously difficult. It's a whole new world, and to have still that adult who's standing next to you saying, oh, this is nothing, I did it, you can do it too.
A lot of people say, okay, that's what your family's for.
Yeah, but we have a different dynamic going on in our country today in terms of what a family looks like. And the traditional families that many of us grew up with are not present for our students. So we're trying to compensate in a lot of ways for what's different about our family structures in this country. Back to the qualitative stories, I mentored a young woman as a 9th grader in high school. She was a 9th grader. I just moved to the city. I mentored her for about 9 months to a year. I thought, I did it, okay, check it off, it was okay. I probably could have done more, done better. Flash forward 15, 16 years later, and I'm doing a presentation at a church, and a young lady comes up to me and she says, I know you probably don't remember me, but you mentored me back when I was in high school, and I never got a chance to tell you thank you and how much it meant to me. So you talk about selling me on the concept of mentoring. I was sold. I didn't think that I'd done a great job. It was okay. I committed to it. I did it, but she didn't seem like she got a whole lot out of it. And for her to remember me, older, many years later, and come up to me and say that meant the world.
Does it ever happen, though, where you just don't have a good match between the young person and the mentor?
We're talking about human beings and relationships. And the sooner we're able to identify a not so good match, we can fix it.
How young should the children be paired with a mentor?
I think, you know, it's important. Simone knows the science on this because she does this every day, but I think it's very important in the younger ages and in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they're still developing their personalities, their interests. They're still developmentally want to please adults. And so some of those things that a mentor can respond to are not yet present there. And so, and you can affirm this, is that I think at best, let's start them about 3rd or 4th grade, where the academics start to get more challenging. They are responding with their social and emotional development differently to different stimulus. So I think older is better. When they're still that young, their parents are still their babies and they're still coddling, so that extra caring adult might not be as needed then.
Yeah, the developmental issues become paramount when we talk about what an appropriate age is. And so we know that about 7th or 8th grade on average, or 7 or 8 years old, is probably the more appropriate time developmentally for most students to match them with someone outside of their family to support them.
On the flip side, is it ever almost too late? Is it too late to start
I
this in high
need
school?
mentors.
I'm like, too late. I still have a core group of, we call each other.
Like a student in high school, I mean, is it become a lot harder to reach that individual?
Again, when you look at the social dynamics of a teenager and the developmental issues, it is a little bit harder to match and secure relationships at the teen years, period. But it's not impossible, it's harder.
From what you're telling me, it makes so much sense. You think, why haven't we done this earlier?
Well, mentoring's been around for over 100 years now. If we look at Big Brother and Big Sister, they've been around. And so it's not a new concept. I think that it's picking up. People are understanding more of its value. We're able to quantify and measure its success in ways that we hadn't in the past. So people are paying attention to this very low-cost way to intervene in the lives of young people who might be at risk.
I think that a lot of adults may be doing it informally. I started informally mentoring a young person that I used to teach. And then I think I talked to Simone or someone who said, hey, you've got to get trained, you've got to get engaged here. Because there are things that can happen that you just need to protect yourself against. But making those formal informal relationships more formal, I think, is key. I believe many people in our community are already doing it. But number one, making sure that you are addressing that very needed population who could be in danger of not staying engaged with school. Making sure that you have the support of a high-quality organization who's doing mentoring, I think it's very important. And so we need to get out there and get more people formalizing those relationships and really engaging with those students who most need the support. And I think that if we take the mystique away from it, you don't have to be, mentors are special. But it's not a specialized skill, being a human.
What about training? How much training is involved in this?
At a minimum, we start our volunteers with a 2-hour training, and that varies across mentoring organizations, but we start with an orientation training that's 2 hours, and then we provide ongoing, very close support for
I was going to ask
matches.
you if they encounter a special situation, say with a young
Then
person.
they need to get on the phone and make a phone call or an email, and there's somebody on that other line ready to help them through that situation.
Bottom line right here today, somebody watching this program is thinking, you know, I might want to do it. What's the best reason for them to pick up the phone, make the call, and get involved?
You know, that's an individual question. You know, do you want to help make things better in the community that you live in? And if the answer is yes, and you love young people and are willing to commit 1 hour a week to do it, go for mentoring.
Yes. Absolutely, I would agree. Think about the young people who you see on the news. Think about the young people that you know that live down the street from you, or that young person who just needs a little push.
Thank you so much for being with us. To obtain a local mentor for your child or to find out how you can become a mentor, please call the United Way by dialing 211. The phone operator on duty will direct your call to the appropriate person. You can also find out more about mentoring and the American Graduate Project by visiting their website at cincy-americangraduate.org. To watch this and other Focus episodes again on demand, you can do so at our website, cetconnect.org/focus. Thank you for watching. I'm Kathy Lehr, and we'll see you next time right here on Focus.
Tell us what you think about the programs we air, or let us know if you would like to see a particular topic on Focus. There are several ways you can contact us. You can send your comments by email to focus@cetconnect.org. You can call us at 513-345-6522. Or you can write to us at Focus, care of Andrew Dahmen, 1223 Central Parkway, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45214. Any use or rebroadcast of this copyrighted program or portions thereof is prohibited without the expressed written approval of CET.